and welcome to SagePoint Update. I'm Joyce Riggs. I'm here today with our special guest, Joe Bianculli. He's an attorney with Healthcare Lawyers, and Joe is here today to walk us through the very, very complicated process, regulatory process for nursing homes in the state of Maryland and federally, and in particular, this last year and a half because of COVID, how this has affected SagePoint. So Joe, thank you for coming. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
So bottom line, did the ALJ maintain that SagePoint had any non-compliance issues or that they harmed any residents?
No. The ALJ set aside every single deficiency, found that there was no harm to any resident caused by any non-compliance, and she completely set aside the sanction that the state imposed.
Very definitive, very definitively.
She wrote a lengthy decision, went through every single allegation the state made, and found that there was no evidence that supported any of them, and that many of them were just not logical. They were illogical.
So was the survey process fair?
Well, no one likes being criticized for anything, right? And nobody likes inspectors coming in and, poking into your business for everything. But there are a lot of legitimate questions about how the federal government in particular has politicized this process. In a number of cases, we've gotten emails back and forth from CMS to state agencies that make it pretty clear that the political leadership of CMS, the then administrator, were working very closely with the administration to try to deflect blame. Again, 20 years from now, when we look back at this, we may find that there's nothing that anybody could have done. But in the heat of the moment, we do know that the administration was doing its best to deflect responsibility, and some of the crazier statements by the president probably didn't help. But we do know that, and again, we've seen it on even in the media, the 60 Minutes reports and some of the in-depth reporting, that the administration was extremely concerned that it not be blamed in an election year. And the way that played out in the agency was that they looked for somebody else to blame. And you had, some fairly exaggerated allegations that it was really nursing homes spreading this. And, because nursing homes weren't doing the right thing, the disease was spreading and that kind of thing. And there's just no evidence that that's true. Again, we talk about the Kirkland case. We won that case as well, but in that case, the government had imposed, penalties in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and alleged that they should have seen it coming and they should have done something different and so forth, when there literally was no one in the country that knew it would be as bad as it was, nor knew how to keep it out of nursing homes. And we found out, in the last few months that the latest data show 99.5% of the nursing homes in the country had an outbreak. So, that's horrible, but, it's kind of hard to say that 99.5% of the nursing homes in the country all did the wrong thing.
So this question that there's this nonprofit, this almost 50-year nonprofit nursing home in Southern Maryland that's had 5-star Medicare rating, has had a great track record of very good infection control surveys prior to this survey. And, you spoke about the political side of it. It looks a little political.
Well, again, we'll find out in due course what motivated the various actors. All right. There's no question that the government has a legitimate, vital role in protecting the health and safety of nursing home residents. Nobody questions that. Right. The questions always are, what's the best way to do that? Now, our system has changed over the years from encouraging best practices and encouraging the sharing of best practices to, pointing fingers and, looking under every rock to see what we can find to blame people for bad outcomes. As I've written law review articles and other things on that saying that's probably not the best way to get to the goal you want to get to. It makes no sense to me from a public policy perspective why a five-star facility that is a not-for-profit, that is one of the leading facilities in the state, much less the community, would be the subject of so much attention and energy from the state and federal governments. The state government we can almost excuse a little bit because we know that the federal government, CMS, was pushing them to find facilities to make examples of. But you would think that policymakers might look for facilities that have a bad track record, or that really didn't do the right thing, or that that didn't do the preparation that this facility did, or that didn't respond the way this facility did. And sadly, there are facilities out there like that. So why this one has become the target, I don't know, and I'm not sure anybody knows. It's hard to avoid the conclusion that if you push back against the state, they just push back harder rather than admitting maybe they made a mistake.
What are the next steps now for Sage Point?
Well, we still have a federal appeal pending. The CMS also imposed a fine much smaller than the state did.
CMS being the
Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which is the federal agency that oversees nursing facilities. They imposed a fine much smaller than the state, but we appealed that as well. And that'll go to hearing if it does, if we don't settle it or if it doesn't go away within the next few months. If CMS is bound and determined to keep this going, this could take a couple more years to get a final resolution. But in the meanwhile, we'll continue to fight for that 5-star rating. Bad surveys can affect it. And we continue to do public outreach like this to tell the story and to publicize that Sage Point really didn't do anything wrong in this case.
And it's a very complicated story, but you did a wonderful job in breaking it down for everyone. So thank you very much for coming, Joe. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us again, and we'll look forward to talking to you with our next update.